they are regrettable. And so, Mr. Speaker, I will support the appeal of my colleague, the minority leader, that you temper justice with mercy. I agree that your decision to suspend some colleagues was timely, and I believe that it has been understood by the generality of Ghanaians as a step that restored the image of this Parliament. And so, Mr. Speaker, I believe that your action has achieved its objectives. But as you can see, our colleagues are remorseful. Our colleagues accept your decision in good faith, and our colleagues are appealing to you to review your decision to suspend your suspension, to reconsider your decision to suspend. Mr. Speaker, it is not only members of the minority side that were suspended. In fact, the chief whip of the majority side was also suspended. So clearly, the conduct was on both sides. And I also, on behalf of my side, appeal to you to reconsider your decision and lift the suspensions so that our colleagues can join us, whilst the other measures that you are putting in place so that long term we can ensure the orderly conduct of business in this House is achieved. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Well, the plea having been made and backed by the majority leader, this is now up to the Speaker to make a decision. This is Right Honourable ASK Bagrin.
Honourable members, I'm sure the first thing you have realized is that I have restored the title Honourable. The day I read my former communication to you and proceeded to suspend the 4 members, I never used the term honourable. I have done so now because your leaders actually came to me to plead that I temper justice with mercy. If any of you here is not remorseful, please be on your feet. It's important. It's very, very important. And I can tell you, I understand and appreciate what is happening. This House is often referred to as a house of might and majesty. Might, because it's the combination of the sovereignty of all the people in the country. Majesty, because the king or queen is part of the house. And therefore, there can be no power higher than that of Parliament. And the person who represents Parliament is the Speaker. And so I sit here and I exercise your powers, and I create an environment for you to be able to perform your function. And I go according to the rules. You can disagree with the Speaker, and the rules and the laws of Ghana permit you to do so, and also details out the procedure on how to handle the disagreement. But the rules are very clear as to what they refer to as disorder or contempt of Parliament. And for me to preserve and uphold that might, majesty, and dignity of the House, I should not shed any responsibility in applying and enforcing the rules. And that was exactly what I did. Even though some of the members are my personal friends, I refer to as sons. So please, you can ask your leaders when they approach me with this. Yes, as a father, when your son commits an offense, you don't punish the son to the extent that you break his or her leg. That becomes a big problem for you, the father. And nobody is perfect. We are all fallible. So I listened to the apology, and here it was repeated by the minority leader for and on behalf of the members of the caucus, and supported by the majority leader. It's not only words. Before me, they demonstrated and assured me of their total support to me and the deputy speakers to ensure that we have an efficient and an effective functioning parliament in Ghana. So I am satisfied with not just the statement, but also their conduct, and I will proceed to lift the suspension of the 4 members of parliament that I considered were involved in disorderly conduct which amounted to contempt. The rules are very clear, and I did refer to them and stated clearly that because we are in the transitional mood, we will not be able to put committees in place, including that of the Privileges and Immunities Committee. And the standing orders grant me the power and authority to do what I did. And clearly, the jurisprudence are very clear that when contempt is committed in facie curia, you don't proceed to set up another committee or court or whatever to investigate and submit a report. And so I referred to the one in Parliament. My very good honorable member, you are at liberty, even after this, to proceed anywhere. I have no problem meeting you in court, but that's where I was farming for many years before I became a member of Parliament. So I have lifted the suspension order, and I do so instantly, and it takes effect immediately. The honorable members so affected are permitted now to enter the presence of the House. I must say that they complied. They actually complied with the orders. And the standing orders are clear, and presence of Parliament is defined. And we have the men and women to enforce the law, and they actually did enforce the law. So I want to commend the members and also the law enforcement agencies, Marshal's Department, the police service, for their support.
Well, so that's the speaker. So the suspension of the 4 MPs were lifted yesterday, but clearly the speaker did not say the investigation or the committee work will not continue. Remember, one of the things he also said was that they will pay for the damages and the breakages on that day. Well, is that all? And should that be all? Is that adequate enough? Let's speak to Dr. Tony Edu. Doc, good morning, and I hope you're well.
Good morning, Senator. I'm okay.
Well, nice to have you on the line. I'm sure you've been following events since last Thursday when this incident happened. So far,
Yes.
satisfied with the speaker's actions and what he decided to do yesterday?
Well, the speaker showed magnanimity, and that was a wise step. I've always said that we must recognize what William Shakespeare wrote in The Merchant of Venice. A conflict between puritanical concept of justice and pragmatic concept of justice. You say you want your pound of flesh. Go and cut the pound of flesh, but don't drop blood. So on the other hand, you have puritanical justice, but it's not practicable that you can cut a pound of flesh and not drop blood. So sometimes when we talk about justice, we say, oh, temper justice with mercy. Because mercy is like a gentle drop from heaven. Everybody is a beneficiary of it. So I agree with the speaker.
But like I was asking, there's also the point where he's talking about the payment for the damages that were caused.
Yes.
And whether any further action should be taken against the other MPs, perhaps, who were not suspended and who are found to have also been part of it. Should the decision yesterday end the matter, or you expect more?
I expect more, because we cannot expect our MPs to behave like hooligans in Parliament. There's been one too many. Here was clear in the TV, another press saying, take the table away, break the leg, and so on and so forth. Is that the behavior of an honorable MP? Aggression is part and parcel of the MPP political community. But they are too full of themselves. And they always think that they must win. Yesterday, I was speaking to Joy FM, and I cited an example of J.H. Mensah and Kwame Batel versus Tony Adu in Parliament. When President Rawlings appointed me Deputy Minister of Defense, J.H. Mensah demanded from the then chairman, Ken Girasa, that my confidential file from Cape Coast University must be subpoenaed. And Ken asked him, do you have any specific allegation against Tony Adu so that you lay the ground for me to take this action? J.H. Mensah didn't have anything. But he won't take part in the vetting. He just walked away from the vetting saying, when you have finished vetting him, I have voted against him. Is that the behavior of an honorable man? You don't come to listen to me, but you can go to the floor of Parliament and malign me and vote against me. Kwame Batel, on the floor of Parliament, where I have no authority or chance to go and speak because I have not been sworn into office, says so many things. Sometimes we call that sophistry, an argument based on sophistry, using a lie to disparage an opponent. in Parliament on the floor. He said, I went to Justice Anand's office at the castle and insulted him. And Justice Anand has never had an office in the castle. And Justice Anand was saying, Tony, I was caught in a dilemma. Here I knew the guy was lying, but as Speaker, I cannot take part in the debate to correct the lies that he was telling. So Justice Anand said, the best thing I can do for you is that on the basis of your constitutional right to participate in parliamentary debate, I'll give you a chance to make a statement. They fought Justice Anand for more than 4 hours on this license to make a statement in Parliament. Then they all walked out. And when I started making my statement, like rats, they will come, put their heads around the corner to hear what I'm saying, and then go, and another will come, Akufo-Addo will come, and James Spencer will come, Kwame Nabates will come, and go. So, first of all, they present themselves as honorable men and behave dishonorably. We can't have this. We can't have this in our country. Same behavior Afenyo Martin is putting up. He behaves like he's God's best sent Ghanaian. So righteous, that's what he says, and everything he do is to create chaos. You say you want government business to go on, and that the MDC must cooperate to get government business to go on. You walked away from government business. Towards the last end of Akufo-Addo's government, they presented the mid-term budget. He walked away, didn't he? Could he even lay that paper? And they kept dodging. The Minister of Finance kept dodging Parliament, and so till 2 days to the elections he just presented. Why? And this hypocritical behavior. And his attack on the backbench. It's like he's God himself. Yesterday, you listened to him in Parliament. Every opportunity he was attacking the backbench. As if they expect the backbench to treat him as a demigod. Eh? We have a problem with the type of politicians we are getting. The MPP has always been a hypocritical community. Forked tongue. To speak one way and act the other way.
I'm also wondering what then you make of the manner in which they handle this whole issue. Because you listen to Afenyo Martin saying, I will not litigate the matter on the floor. Meanwhile, he spent about 3 days litigating the matter in public.
This is the hypocrisy we tell you about. The irrationality. The inability to restore cognitive consonance. He's facing a very serious issue of cognitive dissonance. He must restore consonance by changing some of its cognitive elements. Look, Senna, every time you wake up in the morning, you don't know, but you go through a series of cognitive dissonance. It's not an affliction. It's a preconditional behavior orientation. As a human being, you want your cognitive elements to be in consonance. When one of your elements become unacceptable, what you do is you either change the other element or you ignore the faulty element altogether and you restore consonance. That's the human nature. That's our mental orientation. But he cannot accept the fact that his party lost heavily. He's a tiny minority. Nobody is asking him to be subservient. But the question is, he needs to be reasonable. You made up your mind that Okujeto and Sam George, you will reject them. But you know that the majority has the power to vote them in. So, yesterday, the best way he could restore his consonance was to say that all the 88 members of my party are abstaining. And then he faces another cognitive dissonance situation. He wants the answer to reflect that they are not part of the approval process. So he said, let's count heads. That was the last statement he made before the gavel came down. Is this the right way for Parliamentary to be? Let's count heads. We don't want to be part of it. We are abstaining. That's it, Terry.
But there's also the bigger question about how your party, the NDC, have handled their majority thus far. There's a question of even the chairing of the vetting committee, the appointments committee, the kind of concessions they seem to be making. You have one man asking questions for 3 hours that has pissed off a lot of Ghanaians who feel that that kind of concession that they made was completely wrong and a waste of time. Are you happy so far with the way your party has handled the majority that they have?
Well, they haven't flexed their muscles. That's true enough. But we don't want a bullying majority in Parliament. They are there to make laws. They should cooperate with each other to make just laws for Ghana. 2-hour interrogation is not abnormal. Pavin did it. Haruna Idrisu did it. Muntaka did it. But I've seen him marking carry it to the most ridiculous level. One thing though, he took Okujeto on that he who goes to equity must go with clean hands. And that you yourself, you made a confession that you are renting a house at Airport Hill, and you pay dollar equivalent, and you are chairman of the oral. That was a question he wanted Okudze to answer. That's fair enough. But there were other questions which were so unnecessary, so personal, showing that you will do everything to prevent this man getting a unanimous approval. Same with Sam George. And I'm glad that they stood their ground. Because Akufo-Addo was a beneficiary of Galamsey. His chairman is the chief Galamseyer, Akonta Mining, and yet Akufo-Addo came public to exonerate him. If you do that, are you not a beneficiary? I'm glad they stood their ground there.
Well, let me conclude by asking you whether you think that what you see was using the vetting to score cheap political points and settle personal scores. That's been the allegation that's been leveled against them.
Yes, it has. But like I'm saying, you won't succeed. You may play to the gallery. Your supporters may applaud you. But in the long run, you want to win. You can't win. You don't have the numbers. So what's all these theatricals and that kind of thing showing inside Parliament and at press conferences? I wonder what's wrong with the man. But like I said, we as human beings, every day we wake up, we go through no less than 10 situations of cognitive dissonance. It's lasted a long time and we cannot restore consonance. Every time you go through cognitive dissonance, you immediately seek ways of restoring consonance. That's how we do it unconsciously, but we do it all the time. Every human being is subject to that kind of situation. But if it takes you 3 weeks, 4 weeks to realize that your position has changed and that the change position calls for a new behavior orientation and you won't take it, then you are carrying your own coffin on your shoulders.
Doc, thank you. Thank you very much for speaking to us.
You're welcome.
Dr. Tony Edu, last position is held, former Ghana ambassador to the Netherlands, has been in our politics for quite a while. Let me say, first, a happy birthday to Mrs. Gifty Aku Yachia Edu. Mrs. Gifty Aku Yachia Edu, or Yachia Edu, of the Academic Affairs Directorate of Valley View University. Wishing you long life, good health, and God's continuous blessings. A happy birthday to Mrs. Gifty Aku Yachia Edu of the Academic Affairs Directorate of Valley View University. A happy birthday to you. I understand today is the birthday of Fred Kwesi Jan Baini. So a happy birthday to Fred Kwesi Jan Baini, who celebrates his birthday today. And also a belated happy birthday to 2 people. First, Mocha Dixon Rudolph. Belated happy birthday to you. I don't know why the other name has escaped me so easily. But we'll move on to something that has to do with education. Now, if you check, yesterday, one of the stories that was heavily reported was one about teacher trainee allowance to go, government pledges enhanced student loan scheme, education minister hints. We'll come to that. But first, let's speak to Professor George K.T. Odro, who is Chairman Planning Committee, National Education Forum. They have been tasked with holding the Education Forum that the NDC promised when they were in opposition. That was one of the promises that brought them to power. Prof, thank you very much for your time and good morning to you.
Oh, good morning. Good morning.
I hope you're well.
Oh, by God's grace, we are fine.
Congratulations to you on the appointment to this position. But I'm wondering why Prof accepted when you were called and asked to do this. What motivated your decision to say, this is what I want to do, and I'll take it on?
So thank you very much, and greetings to our audience. I think basically the motivation is service to Ghana, and the fact that education plays a critical role in our development. If we do not get it right, no investment in other economies can help our nation to develop. And so to get the opportunity of contributing to that agenda of providing improved quality education for young ones, to ensure that our educational system works well, to support the other sectors of the economy, I think is a great service that one should be proud of, and that's my motivation.
And first, let me understand from the job you've given, what's your understanding of how far you can go in terms of touching Ghana's education sector? Is everything on the table?
Your question, is everything on the table? That's a very big question, but if I get you right, we've been with our educational system for some time, specifically between 2017 to 2024. We've experienced how the system has gone, especially the free SHS program. We are all privy to the challenges associated with the implementation. We are concerned that basic education wasn't given much priority. And all these things go to affect what happens at the higher level, at the tertiary level. And so your question as to all things on table, yes, in terms of ideas, teams, they are already there, and we are also, as a committee, going to get views from other experts and regions, all stakeholders, including political parties, so that we will come out with a collective implementation strategy that will be owned by the nation. So these are the things. The other side of it, maybe we'll be talking about logistics and all those, and these are part of the planning, and the Minister of Education has assured us, the committee, all this. So if I get you right, then I will see that things are on the table.
Because there's always a suggestion that this may be about the review of the free senior high school. You're saying not only that, you're going from basic to tertiary.
Yes. All types and all forms of education. You see, there's one thing we tend to forget, most of us, that education operates in a chain. So if you are addressing one part of the chain without considering the other links of the chain, you do not do the nation any good. And that's why we are adopting a holistic approach to the review.
Is that missing link of addressing all sides? Is that what you see as the biggest problem with the free senior high school implementation? That we're not looking at basic education, looking at the impact on tertiary education. They limited themselves to only the senior high school parts?
Yeah. Prior to election, as chairman of the education committee, we did a lot of engagement with parents, students, other stakeholders. And the general concern that came up was that there was neglect for the basic school. And my brother, you know that anyone who has invested in putting up a building, if care is not given to the foundation of the building, no matter how beautiful the substructure will appear, it cannot last. You need a strong foundation, which in the context of education is basic education. If you get it right, then you can leverage on ensuring quality at secondary, ensuring quality at tertiary. And so if you neglect basic and concentrate on the middle, you are doing great harm to the younger ones. So that's a great missing link. But that's only an aspect of it. We're talking about access, we're talking about quality, we're talking about equity. And these are things that the forum will be looking at. How do we ensure that particularly people in disadvantaged context, people in rural context, people the poor in the society benefit from not only access to secondary school, but also would enjoy quality and equity in terms of delivery. So these are things that collectively the forum will be looking at.
Quite interesting. But like you said, you chaired that committee that put together perhaps the education part of the manifesto. You made commitments there. What happens when what is proposed at the forum clashes with the commitments you made to the people in the manifesto?
One thing that has not helped our nation in terms of policy implementation is that we fail to draw a line between pre-election manifestos and implementation of such manifestos. After election, whatever proposals in manifesto becomes a national agenda, and implementation of such proposals need to be tackled by the nation so it gains a national ownership. This was what was missing in the 2017 free SHS implementation. It was like, this is what we promised, whether we plan or not, whether there are resources or not, let's push it through. And that is what has brought us the challenges we are now facing. The government doesn't want to make that mistake. And that is why the forum is very important. We bring in people from all geographical context, economic context. Let's look at the issue. This is what we said we'll be doing. This is the real situation in which we find ourselves. Within this context, what do you think can be done so that we do not compromise quality, we do not compromise equity in the provision of education in the country? At the end of the day, if as a nation we decide that this is where we are going, fair enough. And so nobody turns around to blame any individual when things do not. So we have collective ownership that, for me, brings about motivation to support whatever decision, implementation strategy we adopt as a nation, so far as education is concerned. Education is not just a matter for government, it's a matter for society. And everybody's voice matters. And this is what the National Forum seeks to do.
Mm. And that question was from, I'm sure you've monitored what the education minister said and the responses that is gotten. He says, whatever decision is made will be made on teacher training allowance will be made at the forum, and he'll be subject to it. But he shared his own personal opinion, and that is the one that has taken over the news. People are suggesting there will be cancellation of teacher training allowances, among others, when he says that it is subject to a decision at the forum. Will teacher training allowance be on the table?
Thank you, my brother. One of the things that came out after engaging with teacher trainees themselves, the Teachers Trainee Association of Ghana, TTAG, and all those things, one thing that came out strongly is that there should be conscious efforts to make the tertiary status of colleges of education a reality. Okay. So from now going, teacher training allowance, as the minister said, will be paid alongside enhanced loan scheme for students, teacher trainees to have the option, those who want to work, all those things. But as we move forward and as the forum will look at, if colleges of education, some of which are becoming chartered institutions, there are plans to charter some of them to operate as individual, autonomous tertiary institutions. If they are going to enjoy all benefits associated with tertiary institutions, if they are going to operate all packages described for tertiary institutions, then the big question that the forum needs to look at, is there justification to continue paying teacher training allowances when other tertiary institutions, chartered tertiary institutions, students of other institutions are not taking teacher training allowances, although they also train teachers? So these are things that will require stakeholder engagement, including teacher trainees themselves, and at the end of the day, we take a decision. So that heading, that teacher training allowance to the council attributed to the honorable minister, I think was taken out of context. If it is placed within context, we would understand the situation.
And I'm wondering, those who will be part of this forum, are you inviting people, or I can also stand up and say, "Oh, they are holding a forum, I'm also going to share my idea"?
One, we are yet setting our mood of engagement. But one of the things that this forum want to avoid is what we have experienced in the past, where forum of this nature are held, but people are selectively invited as participants. And then we come out to say that we engage a lot. You know, whenever I keep responding to those, I make reference to myself. In 2017, if you follow, I was very, very outspoken against the rash nature of implementing the free SHS. And because of that position, contrasting position I held, I was excluded from all national education discourses in the country between 2017 to 2024, in spite of my expertise in education. This national forum wouldn't do that. It is bringing along all people across regions selected. Of course, we cannot bring everybody, but representatives across the country, irrespective of their political orientation, so that we can come out with decisions that will be nationally owned. That we assure you.
How much time do you have, Prof, to do all this?
You mean how much time do we have?
To put together a forum and then the recommendations of the forum? How much time?
Yeah, I think that's why the committee was inaugurated yesterday. We are yet to begin work, and as soon as we finish, we're hoping that by the 13th, 14th, our work will finish our work, and your question will be answered.